460 people are dead and hundreds more are missing. Scientists say climate change makes these hurricanes larger, stronger, and more deadly because of the historic rainfall. Senator Vance, according to CBS News polling, 7 in 10 Americans and more than 60% of Republicans under the age of 45 favor the U.S. taking steps to try and reduce climate change. Senator, what responsibility would the Trump administration have to try and reduce the impact of climate change? I'll give you 2 minutes.
Sure. So first of all, let's start with the hurricane, because it's an unbelievable, unspeakable human tragedy. I just saw today, actually, a photograph of 2 grandparents on a roof with a 6-year-old child, and it was the last photograph ever taken of them because the roof collapsed and those innocent people lost their lives. And I'm sure Governor Walz joins me in saying our hearts go out to those innocent people, our prayers go out to them, and we want as robust and aggressive as a federal response as we can get to save as many lives as possible, and then, of course, afterwards, to help the people in those communities rebuild. I mean, these are communities that I love. Some of them I know very personally in Appalachia, all across the Southeast. They need their government to do their job, and I commit that when Donald Trump is president again, the government will put the citizens of this country first when they suffer from a disaster. Now, Nora, you asked about climate change. I think this is a very important issue. Look, a lot of people are justifiably worried about all these crazy weather patterns. I think it's important for us, first of all, to say, Donald Trump and I support clean air, clean water. We want the environment to be cleaner and safer. But one of the things that I've noticed some of our Democratic friends talking a lot about is a concern about carbon emissions, this idea that carbon emissions drives all of the climate change. Well, let's just say that's true, just for the sake of argument, so we're not arguing about weird science. Let's just say that's true. Well, if you believe that, what would you want to do? The answer is that you'd want to reshore as much American manufacturing as possible, and you'd want to produce as much energy as possible in the United States of America, because we're the cleanest economy in the entire world. What have Kamala Harris's policies actually led to? More energy production in China, more manufacturing overseas, more doing business in some of the dirtiest parts of the entire world. And when I say that, I mean the amount of carbon emissions they're doing per unit of economic output. So if we actually care about getting cleaner air and cleaner water, the best thing to do is to double down and invest in American workers and the American people. And unfortunately, Kamala Harris has done exactly the opposite.
Governor Walz, you have 2 minutes to respond.
Well, we got close to an agreement because all those things are happening. Look, first of all, it is a horrific tragedy with this hurricane, and my heart goes out to the folks that are down there in contact with the governors. I serve as co-chair of the Council of Governors as we work together on these emergency managements. Governors know no partisanship. They work together. So all of the governors and the emergency responders are on the ground. Those happen on the front end. The federal government comes in, makes sure they're there to that we recover, but we're still in that phase where we need to make sure that they're staying there, staying focused. Now, look, coming back to the climate change issue, there's no doubt this thing roared onto the scene faster and stronger than anything we've seen. Senator Vance has said that there's a climate problem in the past. Donald Trump called it a hoax and then joked that these things would make more beachfront property to be able to invest in. What we've seen out of the Harris administration now, the Biden-Harris administration, is we've seen this investment. We've seen massive investments, the biggest in global history that we've seen in the Inflation Reduction Act, has created jobs all across the country. 2,000 in Jeffersonville, Ohio, taking the EV technology that we invented and making it here. 200,000 jobs across the country. The largest solar manufacturing plant in North America sits in Minnesota. But my farmers know climate change is real. They've seen 500-year droughts, 500-year floods back to back. But what they're doing is adapting, and this has allowed them to tell me, look, I harvest corn, I harvest soybean, and I harvest wind. We are producing more natural gas and more oil at any time than we ever have. We're also producing more clean energy. So the solution for us is to continue to move forward, that climate change is real. Reducing our impact is absolutely critical, but this is not a false choice. You can do that at the same time you're creating the jobs that we're seeing all across the country. That's exactly what this administration has done. We are seeing us becoming an energy superpower for the future, not just the current. And that's what absolutely makes sense. And then we start thinking about how do we mitigate these disasters.
Thank you.
Yeah, so this one was kind of even for me. I know that they both kind of address this scenario. I can tell you that I personally think that they're both well-spoken, right? And I think that they both obviously complement each other, but they're both pitching us. 2 pitches. Sales pitch 1 was Senator Vance. One thing I love that he did, which a lot of salespeople miss in a presentation, is he tied massive amounts of emotion, right? When you start a presentation, the presentation emotions are high. They know you're trying to sell them something. That you know you want to sell them something. It's like you're trying to knock this wall down. Well, what's the best way to do that? The best way to do that is with a third-party story that ties some sort of emotion on what their pitch is that kind of draws people in. He did that immediately, right? He brought them in with emotion, talked about the 3 people that unfortunately lost their lives were on the roof, the last picture, et cetera. He then went into some like facts about what Donald Trump and him want to do, right? We believe in this, we believe in that, and this is what we're going to be doing moving forward. I also think that if you are talking about one product versus another company that may sell something similar, because that's what, Governor Walt or, VP candidate Waltz is trying to do, he's trying to pitch them on something similar. He says, listen, currently right now, the way that we're doing things isn't working, right? It's just not. And you have to have change. And I think in sales, you have to find a problem. If you can find that problem and then offer a solution, you're going to draw people in more. So I think I give this one to Vance because he tied people in with emotion first. He brought them in, so I listened to him more. I felt like the emotion out of him, the sincerity and the sympathy for the people that lost their lives. But then he talked about a problem. He talked about current solution isn't working, and here's what we're going to do to make it better. To me, in sales, that would kind of bring me in and make me want to do business with someone for sure.
100%. I think something that Vance did I thought was genius. And again, I don't know the actual facts behind it, but I can take guesses. He instantly, like without pause, somehow, some way tied their strong position about bringing jobs to America and not outsourcing as much and connected that with the answer about climate change. My guess is damn well that they're not bringing jobs to America to reduce climate change.
Yeah, right.
But he made that make sense to me, bro. I'm like, wait a second. Holy shit. That's a great point. Yeah. And he knows that's one of their biggest, strongest positions, and he found a way to talk about it and connect it to a great answer and kind of question the thought processes of, what's the homeboy's name? Waltz, yeah. Dude, it was genius. I loved it. I love the emotion thing. I don't see the dude talk very much, but they're both really well spoken. I like seeing a young dude out there, but I don't know. When he instantly answered the question about climate change and then supported it with another massive stance that his party has, was flawless.
Well, I also think you're almost Vance, by the way. You're almost Vance. I mean, you're both almost the same age. You're not as handsome as he is, but you're almost Vance.
Muscle.
Yeah. Listen, he does have more muscle.
Yeah, you and
I know I look more like Waltz. I know it's coming. I knew it was coming. I'm gonna block that before you say it. but you're talking about muscles, because should we compare? Anyways, no. But the thing is, it's like I'm being honest. I actually knew, because I know you, and I know you even asked who are these candidates. That's what I love about doing this today. It's like, if you go into something not knowing someone, like a salesperson, you don't know who they are. You have to kind of take what they give you and take it for face value, right? And that's what you're doing right now, which I love that, because I do know a little bit more about these candidates than you do, right? Not near as much as other people. That being said, there was less arrogance too with Vance in my opinion. I don't think either one of them were arrogant at all, but I think that, when you go first in a presidential debate like this, it's easy to be the second person and get defensive, as we saw in a lot of Trump's things, right? He gets super defensive, quickly kind of, trying to defend himself, and I didn't mean this, then he bashes the other person. Neither one of them did that, right? And I thought Waltz did a good job at saying, well, we almost came to an agreement here, right? But here's the difference in what we're going to do, right? That being said, the reason why I give it to Vance is because Waltz said we are almost in agreement with everything he said is true that we're doing. Okay, so the fact that we are providing jobs for other countries that are dirtier is true. He didn't even talk about that anymore, right? He didn't try to defend that at all. So you're agreeing that we're making moves and we're not providing, to your point, those jobs for U.S. citizens, because you're right. Those jobs have nothing to do with clean energy, the air, has nothing to do with that. But he didn't, yeah, they do now. But he didn't take the time to address that. He basically said, I agree with everything you're saying, but because we're producing more clean energy than ever now, right? Which may or may not be true to the American public. You don't know, right? Who knows? That's just what he stood on. To me, I would have liked to address those things, right? If I'm sitting across from a prospect and they have some questions, maybe they've done some fact checking, right? I would want to address those issues they have at first before I move forward with the presentation, because I think a lot of times in sales, we kind of just let those things go and we try to say some new, shiny, beautiful sentence that gets them involved and wants to get them moving towards the close, right? When he didn't do that. See, if you don't address the problems that a prospect has up front and you just push them aside, they instantly think you don't care. So if I'm the American public and Waltz didn't even address anything that he said, which is how he kind of agreed with it, then I'd be like, man, why? I don't understand. He didn't even address that stuff. He doesn't care about me. He doesn't care about what I think, the problems, etc. And then you're just trying to sell me some new shiny object to get me to agree with you. Yeah. Like in sales, you can't do that. You have to address those problems up front. If someone says something to you and it becomes a problem or it's an objection that you need to handle the objection now. Don't push it off. Handle it now. Show them that you care. Show them that you've heard them, right? And then it'll help transition to the close a lot easier.
It's funny. You brought up the, talking about, I didn't know them and all that kind of stuff. And it kind of brings up a point, if we were to get someone in here and do what we're doing, that was just massively party lines kind of guy, can't even consider the other one kind of person.
Yeah.
And ask them to give honest feedback on how well each person answered.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're obviously going to see some biased responses, right? But because I quite literally had to ask you who they were, I barely even know which party they're for. I don't know the facts behind it. I can come in and you can come in with like true unbiased and perspective and all I'm listening for. I really don't really care much about what the answer really is. I'm listening for like how they crafted it. And it kind of it's a little bit analogous to like the power of unbiased perspective when it comes to like consulting that we do. Mm-hmm. And companies that are crushing it, they're always like, sometimes they don't know if they have a problem. They don't think they need outside help because they're crushing it. But they have so much bias, not negative, but they're in it, right? Yeah. So they can't look at something with a clear vision because of all the information they already know. So the value of someone that I don't know a single thing about your business. I don't know who Martha is and Bob is. I don't know any of those people. I don't know what they do for a living. But you want us to look at the sales process, or you want us to look at this thing over here. Where when we're looking for that one thing and there's zero noise and zero bias, we can see it when other people can't. And that's kind of what's happening here too. I can see how they're structuring their answers, where I think a lot of people couldn't had they known more of the facts and had they been super party lines. So I think there's a little bit of a interesting analogy there in the power of truly unbiased perspective and what it can do for people in business, what it can do for voters, all that kind of stuff.
I agree. Yeah, I think one of the things that Vance did that I liked a lot was, actually both of them did it in the entire debate. They were constantly complimenting each other and not bashing one another. And I think in sales, it's really, really important, right? Because when he first started, he said, I think that, Waltz also joins me in this belief, right? Well, in sales, a lot of times we're so quick to start bashing the competition, and people hate it, dude. I don't care what anyone says. You do not bash the competition, no matter how bad they are, right? Because it just makes you look like an asshole. Let's just call it what it is, right? That's why a lot of people don't like Trump or Kamala, to be honest with you, because all they do is they bash each other back and forth, and they waste so much time not getting us the facts that we need. One thing Vance said, he said, I think he joins me in this belief. And I think in sales, if you have a competitor or company, I think it's better to say, I think we have similar beliefs in a lot of what we offer if the product or service is very similar, but this is a little bit of why we're different, right? Because if you do that, it just shows, well, they are doing some good stuff out there. This person isn't here just to bash them and make me want to just choose them because this other one's so shitty. It's like, no, we're aligned with a lot of how we feel, right? But then the next sentence should be, but here are the bullet points of why we're different and why you should use us, and here's the value that we add, that we don't think that they may not be there yet, and hopefully they're going that direction, but we love a lot of everything that they do. Just these are the differences and why you should choose us. In sales, that's a much better way to go. Instead of saying, hey, listen, Brandon Biscuit Consulting, they suck. They are horrible. They've been doing trash for so long, which is the reason why we created what we did, right? And that's not the way to do things in sales or anything. And too many salespeople are doing that, and they don't know they're losing the sale immediately when that happens.
Mm-hmm. You know, what else? Another aspect of what he did, which again was genius, is in a way he kind of like got Waltz into a place where he had to respond a certain way. He's not going to say, No, I'm not with you on that.
Yeah.
He can't. Even if he wasn't, he can't. He's kind of blocked in. He led him to an answer that he wanted to get out of Waltz. And we talk a lot about, asking in a positive way, like asking questions that people can't really say no to just start to move their mindset to a different place. So like when I go, like, Todd, obviously you don't want to waste money, right? Obviously,
Of course, yeah.
You can't say that you want to waste money
Right.
because it's illogical and it makes zero sense. Right. And I just led you. I said, obviously. And like the tonality, the way that I'm doing it, the obviously. And I'm leading you into saying, well, yeah. And then you say, yeah. And I'm starting to kind of get your brain into thinking about not wasting money, et cetera, in a random pitch. And that's kind of what he did to him too, because he's not going to say no. So it makes it look really good on Vance that he tied him in, and he knows Waltz isn't going to say no. He's going to jump in even if he didn't want to.
Yeah.
It's genius.
Yeah, totally agree.